And on the other side, let me quickly go ahead with our next panel. I do not want to eat into their time, which is the talk time of 30 minutes. So allow me an opportunity to call upon our next speaker. Starting with Mr. Abhishek Modi, who is the Vice President at HDFC Bank, specializing in digital banking, API, with over 18 plus years of industry experience. He's somebody who's got a strong background in banking technology, digital transformation, product domain. He's recognized for his academic excellence and broad professional expertise in digital banking. Thank you, Mr. Modi, for joining in. We'd also like to invite on stage Saugata Basu, the fintech entrepreneur and a founder of CashRich, an intelligent investment app designed to help users grow their investments confidently. He has had an extensive experience managing investment, including close to USD 2 billion for Tata Steel Group, and has worked as an investment consultant with UBS in Boston. Thank you so much, Mr. Basu, for joining us. We'd also like to humbly invite on stage Sushil Otswal, the CDO of BSE. Let's give him a warm round of applause. A seasoned data science and AI leader with over 2 decades of leadership experience in this field. Thank you, Mr. Sushil, for joining us. We, of course, look forward to your expertise on the same. We'd also like to humbly invite on stage and the platform Mr. Sampath Manikam, the CTO of NSC, a highly experienced technologist and transformation leader with over 3 decades of global experience across financial infrastructure, telecom, OTT, media platforms, and mission-critical data centers. Currently, he is also recognized as one of Asia Pacific's top 50 data center and cloud influencers. And of course, to lead this panel, we have the very iconic and legendary leader in our industry. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a corporate and economic advisor with over 39 plus years of experience. It's almost like 4 decades, let me just say 4 decades of finance strategy and corporate performance management. He's held key leadership roles at prominent companies like TCS, PwC, Hinduja Group, ICICI Bank, and Piramal Group, to name a few. He's also a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, somebody who has expertise in corporate finance, mergers and acquisition. And my personal relationship with Mr. Kannan is from the time of Hinduja days, where he was confidently leading that front. And of course, anybody in the field who would have met Mr. Kannan can speak leaps and bounds of his expertise. So let's give him a warm round of applause as we welcome him for the moderation. So Mr. Kannan, now over to you to take it forward with your expertise, with your humble panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you. I think we have only 30 minutes and it will be a rapid round. So this is on AI and capital markets. Yesterday, you can. Actually, we had a interesting session, last session yesterday, on algo trading. I trade in markets, but I never use algo. I trade based on basics and fundamentals of the stock. So what we are finding today is in capital markets, a lot of algo trading, and we also hear that mostly this is being used by FPIs and they make more money. And SEBI also reports that 95% of traders, of course most of them are very young, and they lose money. So this AI in capital markets is being today used by regulators as well as the institutions like NSE and BSE in a big way. So we have the leaders from the industry, from NSE, BSE, then we have fintech company CashRich, then we have India's leading bank HDFC. So they are all represented here. And I will start with a little observation. One, what we are saying is that there is an integration of AI and machine learning that is transforming the capital markets industry in a big way. And now what we are seeing is the data-driven automated decision making is happening. That is what we saw yesterday when he said that you define the rules and all that. You don't require to be in front of the screen, and it will go by the rules you have defined it will do the trading for you. Then they also process vast data. We are all aware. I think NSE has the largest volume in the world in terms of trading. So they are the largest volume. They are number one in the world in terms of trading. Of course, you all know that we have digital transaction also. India has become number one in the world now. So they process vast data and multi-structured data sets. So one good thing about AI is that earlier we used to process only quantitative data. Now it can get data even from qualitative sources, and they can combine and make analysis out of that. Then of course they take data from market feeds, then news sentiments, social media and macroeconomic indicators. Of course, we hear that SEBI is monitoring very closely what is happening on the social media, news, sentiment news and all that. Based on that, they also come to conclusions. I have heard SEBI officials speaking about some 10 years ago. They identified some 30 patents. So from those patents, they would be able to identify what is a good trade, what is a bad trade. So this has happened 10 years ago. And we were talking about AI. IBM, you were saying that the share prices were going up. The main reason is IBM was the first company in the world to bring AI-based product called Watson. And now IBM is bringing out a lot of products based on AI. That is how its share price is going up today. So there are immense opportunities using AI, but there are also risks. In fact, the risk part of that is what BSE and NSE must be using AI in a very big way. And there are regulatory and operational challenges in using AI. So with this, now I will come to the first speaker, Mr. Sampath. You are processing large number of data, large data. And what are the present AI use cases in NSE and how you see that going forward? What type of new cases you would identify in terms of application of AI?
Thanks, Kannan. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks, Narendra, in waiting for me to share my thoughts on this AA forum today. But just before answering your question, let me also talk about, because many people are familiar with the banking and insurance capital market. Everybody trades, but we do not know what capital market, the volume and the breadth and the depth of the capital market. Today, India basically, in NSE specifically, the put together all exchange in the world, the 50% of the world transaction in the capital market happens over NSE. That's what in NSE. We support in a day, on a peak days, close around 20 billion orders, almost 320 billion trades. I'm talking 20 billion orders within 6 hours, 15 minutes. That's the kind of the volume you handle. So it shows how much the enormous of the data. In India, 1/3 of the wealth of Indian households are trades on NSE. Just to give you a picture of the banking versus insurance versus the capital market, that's a shift is taking place across India, the capital market. And the NSE being the largest exchange in the world, and we are the number 2 in equity segment and almost the largest derivative exchange in the world. And we are started as the first digital exchange. On a day one, it's completely on a digital platform 30 years back. We pioneered in many of the digital technology, whatever it comes. Many of the fintechs and e-commerce and many of the industries are emulated over the period what kind of the NSE is done. And same year in GenAI, we have pioneered GenAI. We have our own GenAI practice which formed almost 1.5 years back. They are pioneering and piloting in many of the test cases and use cases. And initially we started with predominantly on the non-code trading areas, started with the regulatory compliances, how to summarize the documentation. Typically the the compliance department get more than 100 to 700 or 1000 page document that used to be summarized for the executives or even to take action to summarize to the board or committee. There are multiple committees being a stock exchange. The summarization is a cumbersome manual intervention task which we piloted in GenAI, just to quote, out typically Gen AI, we given a chat GPT, it summarizes, that's not the way it summarizes. Basically, it's required a lot of prompt engineering. Just to highlight a prompt engineering, it took initially close to a month to summarize what the regulatory department wants to summarize out of the regulatory orders. So that's why we started it. From there on, we moved on multiple use cases. Currently, any of my test development, whatever the testing cases getting generated using Gen AI, any new feature, any new release, typically we generate using a Gen AI. The test case generation out of the Gen AI is much more larger in terms of number of test cases where human generate. We used to generate using that, and of course we have a human intervention to ensure that the relevant test cases being tested before rolling out the rolling out any new feature and release. Currently the NSE website, it's running on multilingual website. It's almost running on 12 languages, all regional languages supported. The entire language conversions we have powered by a Gen AI. Not only that, including some of the surveillance and other areas, we are doing multiple pilots. Also the data warehousing and including the observability. The observability, one of the big pace we are looking at it, how the entire IT operations, where we can look at it, the kind of predictive analytics and auto healing for detecting any failures in the IT operations, so that we'll be able to generate. Just to quote, we also do almost 1 million message per second. It's a only industry, we talk, breathe, and in a nanosecond and microsecond, unlike the other banking and insurance. Nanosecond, microsecond, 1 divided by 10 to the power of 9 is the nanosecond, 1 divided by 10 to the power of 6 is the microsecond. That's a kind of the efficiency of a speed is expected in a capital market. That's where the thumb rule across the globe. So whatever we implement, we also put a lot of guardrails to ensure that the speed is met, at the same time the trust and the transparency is not compromised. And we're looking at the Gen AI, not only that's couple of use cases I've talked about, it's being used across typical office productivity improvement, the surveillance area, as well as some of the future way of looking at it, how we can look at the enforcement automation kind of an area. And India is the only exchange. I mean, typically, if you go to any global exchange, whether NASDAQ or London Stock Exchange, typically they play a commercial role of exchange. Only in India, the exchange also play an active role of first line regulator. We regulate the listed company, we regulate whatever the brokers and members. In SEBI regulates the exchange in turn regulate the listed companies and the broker community. So being the regulatory role, we are also looking at how the regulatory related functions of surveillance and the market manipulations or any of the other enforcement, Gen AI can be used. Gen AI is no more than a pilot in my view. Gen AI is being a platform to build a trust, transparency and transformation. That which I'll hand it over to Kannan back.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Manikyam. Coming to Mr. Ostwal. Now there are a lot of IPOs are coming up, that's one. How you are using AI to, there are also reports yesterday or day before, I was reading in Mint, that they were saying that the market regulator is very closely monitoring the secondary markets. And primary markets, there is a scope for improvement. That's one part, how you are using AI. Second is on, as Mr. Manikyam mentioned, the surveillance and risk management. So how you are using AI in implementing the surveillance and risk management. So these two, if you can share.
So in terms of Bombay Stock Exchange, so this is one of the largest exchange in terms of number of companies listed in BSE. They are close to, I think, 5,400, largest in the world. And hence, listing process, listing companies, they are one of our key stakeholders. Apart from that, we have brokers, members, regulators, and internal various functions. So the first step, I think, is identifying the right use case. And how do we go about identifying the right use case is going up bottom up. And when we say bottom up, is basically just not picking up any use cases which will try to solve a small problem or something, right? When you're trying to solve a problem, it should have a tangible outcome and a bigger outcome. I mean, AI can be applied in any use case, but that's a bottom-up approach, that we. Then second is the mindset. Basically, AI is not a general IT project, and you just plug and play and you will get the outcome. And then the third is the communication and collaboration between the stakeholders, right? it is technology, security, the business user, the team which is developing the use cases. So with that perspective, we started our journey, and we have successfully rolled out our use cases in SME DRHP listing process, where typically there is a 400-page document which comes, and then the listing departments vets it out, and for an approval rejection, that process initially took weeks, and we have implemented a GenAI based solution wherein that process gets completed in days. And also what we have done, we expose that functionality to merchant bankers, wherein before filing, we have made that solution available to merchant banker for an initial screening. So that in the initial screening itself, they get an output, where are the gaps, and they can fill it. So that helps in faster processing and decision making for merchant banker also, and for listing process also. And second is in terms of the second question in various functions like surveillance and all that. I think the data foundation, the data infrastructure. So I would say, we would say that AI is the new infrastructure. Okay, so building the data infrastructure, the foundation is utmost important. And no doubt that the volume of data that is coming in, with both structured and unstructured data, how can we integrate the data and apply all those foundation, which could be data quality, data observability, lineage, governance, access controls, risks, and all that. So that is a foundation that needs to be built up. And then picking up a use case of surveillance and areas, we are experimenting use cases, because the amount of ad hoc requests, the amount of data requirement or that comes from regulators from various departments is humongous, is increasing, and we are experimenting. So can we, how we can typically improve the productivity and faster the decision making approach. So for example, in surveillance, typically there is a preliminary analysis which needs to be done for any company. Just an example. So that is still a manual, where the data needs to be pulled from multiple reports, data sources, and so on. So if we can, automate that rather than in a click, that initial preliminary analysis is done. And on top of that is building a query engine, or where a user can access the data in a not just going in a dashboard form, but just asking and getting that output. So there are lots of use cases, but yes, identifying the use case, but at the same time, when a use case is rolled out, okay, it becomes equally important how you're monitoring it. Continuous monitoring, experimentation, the patch management, the vulnerability, the guardrails, the audits, the security, all that is it has to be implemented. So for example, when we started our use case, we were at an accuracy of 70-75%. We experimented it, we got a continuous feedback from the user, and we moved up our accuracy level. And that's a scalable framework, because that framework will enable us to do many more use cases.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Basu, you are focused on customer delight and all that. So one of the areas which is emerging in a big way, I used to talk about in my lectures many years ago, that if there are 100 people here, there are 100 customer segments. So now this concept of hyper-personalization has become one of the major features of using AI. So how you use AI for hyper-personalization, that is one question. Then, yesterday also there were some questions raised when presentations were made. How you will convince a customer that the AL, ML models you are using is going to give results. But the presentation said that sometimes you lose 30, sometimes you gain 30. But they had shown that 80% of the time you gain 30. So how you will be able to convince a customer that yes, these models we are using, it is going to work. And the last one is on this data privacy. You know that now it has become very important, and also there are laws which have been enacted by Indian government. So these three aspects, if you can address.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So at CashRich, our goal is to maximize the investment return for our users while controlling the risk. and everyone wants to make more money, but they don't also want to lose money. So that's something we have to deliver, and AI can aid in that process. Definitely, there is a lot of scope for using AI. We have been using it for various purposes, like for our operational automation, for deciding which schemes to invest in, for portfolio rebalancing, etc. And I'll give some examples and also touch upon the personalization part of it. However, the core objective of using AI would be to either cut cost in some way or to increase the client satisfaction. Maybe the client complaints go down, and overall increase trust in the service. If the AI project is not really doing any of these three, then it is like a toy project. It is of not any use, real use. Real use will come when we see some business benefits. And whenever we are deciding whether to go for a particular AI project or not, we have to use some sort of a framework to decide whether these KPIs are being met. So I've been using my own like a 3D kind of a framework where the Ds are discover, decide, and do. So in the discover phase, what we try to do is go through all the data that is available from different systems. For example, people are doing, using a chatbot. So there's a text in the chatbot. They are sending emails to our support email. There's a lot of conversation over there. They are talking to relationship managers. So the relationship managers are taking some notes after the calls. And there are transaction data, there are portfolio data. So a lot of information is anyway available with the organization about a particular user. Using that entire set of user, we can come up with certain analysis to understand the unmet goals. Some goals are explicitly stated by the user, but certain things are unmet. For example, somebody has asked about gold fund in a chat sometimes, in 2 weeks back. But we also see that in that portfolio, gold fund is not there, or the proportion allocation is quite low. So now it becomes a logical thing for the system to say that, you were anyway requesting for it, or you were trying to learn about it, or you were browsing that particular screen in the app, and your portfolio also doesn't have adequate amount of gold. So we can nudge them to, add that as a, step which makes sense to the customer also and helps them in their overall wealth building. So hyper personalization would happen when we use all these different data sources to understand the actual financial goals of the user and also the unmet needs of the user. Sometimes the user is not explicitly saying something, but through these different AI models, you can understand what would be the next logical step for this user. And so that initial step of discovery is this. Then we have to decide, like when we have to decide the next step for the user, we have to look at the user's current portfolio data, their demographics, their risk-taking capability, etc. And also the market data, like which assets are at which stage currently, what is overvalued, what is undervalued, and which asset class should be the next best option for this particular user. It's not like we don't operate in a traditional way, like if some NFO has come and we have to just push everybody to buy that NFO. That is something we don't do. We have to personalize it for each and every user, and that particular instrument has to make sense. Otherwise, we'll keep spamming people and people will ignore our notifications. So we send very minimal notifications or messages, only what is relevant to that user. And the third step is do, where all these information that you're getting and then you're personalizing, then you have to automate the next steps. So in terms of operational work, things can be automated. In terms of any service ticket, etc., we can automate that. So those are the next steps. And that's how the first question, which is hyper personalization, can be done. The next thing you asked about the data privacy, security, etc. So in the data privacy and security aspect, it's very important to understand that we cannot continue testing our apps, websites, etc. in the same way that we used to do earlier. Earlier, what we used to do was that you give a testing company an app and say, test my app, and they will click some buttons, and if the app works, then everything works. That's not how the second generation of AI products can be tested, because what we are creating now are multi-agent architecture where one agent talks to another agent, and they can take some data process and hand it over to the next one, and next one can do something else. So if you have such a complex multi-agent architecture, your app front end is of no use as such. Like the front end will always work. It is inside what's going on that is critical. And as some of the co-panelists mentioned about prompt engineering. So when we try a particular prompt and we get a response, after some time, something can break or a new use case can come, and we might change those prompts. So one or two AI agents may be modified, but then you have to test what is the overall implication of the entire multi-agent system, because one or two agents are now changed. And this kind of a testing is very different than what we have been doing earlier without AI agents. So that's why we tried to find some products, but we couldn't get the right kind of thing that we needed. So we created our own in-house AI eval system, which we are using currently, and we have partnered with some professors from Princeton University, US, to build that. What it does is it helps us to do A/B testing of prompts. So if we feel that something is not generating the correct kind of response, we create another prompt for another agent, and then it can simulate 500, 600 different responses. But there are different Q&A which can happen, or different processes that can happen. By changing one prompt, what is the effect in all the responses? And A, B is like telling which prompt has done better success than the other in terms of the overall output. And in terms of all the data, we have to encrypt, and we don't pass any PII, which is personally identifiable information, to the AI systems at all. Because we have to assume that it is going public, and we cannot send anything which will help us to identify who's the actual user. If it is all encrypted and there's only numbers in the entire thing, the actual user can never be identified. So that's the first level of security, which will maintain privacy as well as ensure that the data doesn't get leaked out.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Modi is from the leading bank, HDFC Bank. And this is one bank which started from day one with very well-defined systems and processes. That is the main reason for banks' big success. So, AI also, I'm sure, they must be having one of the best AI systems in banking. So, my question is on how it helps in anti-money laundering and KYC to detect non-obvious patterns. That's one. And second is that you are from retail banking. So how you are using, I know most of your clients are also linked to capital markets. So how you are using AI to tap data from your customer banking?
Sure. I'm audible? Okay. So thank you for having me here. Thank you, Dr. Narendra. It's an immense pleasure to be here among this august audience. So the first question, so let me try and take a stab. First of all, my opinions are my individual, my personal. They don't represent the company position, just to be very clear about that. So from an AML KYC perspective, broadly the way we look from a banker's perspective, the larger banking fraternity. The first is the customer onboarding part. Still, a lot of the processes are quite manual, quite tedious for the regular customer, the regular investor, the regular bank holder, the account holder rather. So the intent is to convert the processes from a paper-based to automate. That's the most basic thing that we have to do. AI comes a little later, much later than that. Second is from a customer segmentation perspective. Again, where there's a fair amount of manual intervention, manual efforts in this. The point is to convert or rather do either a cost saving exercise or look at more from an ROI or a increased business perspective. Third point, or the third category, so to speak, is more from a risk assessment perspective. Once you've done the bit of the customer segmentation, kind of teeing off on what our esteemed colleagues have said here, teeing it off from a customer segmentation. What are the broad segments that we have? Whether it's from income perspective, whether it's from a location, whether it's from a demographic perspective, and then do the silo or the hyper-personalization.
Okay.
The next point is creating customized alerts, triggers, early warning systems, which is more from a larger banking perspective, not pointing at any bank or any organization specifically, which gives us a view as bankers, as technologists, and to me as an individual, what would be a potential customer's forecasted behavior down the road, say he or she subscribes for a particular set of products. Third is from a positive perspective, positive notion perspective. What a particular customer is liable to purchase down the road. So that helps save me from a cross-selling efforts, which is a good cost savings standpoint. Next is from a, you can call it from a cross-pollination or a cross-germination perspective. So when we use AI stacks, bankers as such, when a customer or a particular, let's say, business entity has applied for a loan, more from a retail banking perspective or from business loans perspective, we use AI as a cross-check whether this particular entity has any kind of shell companies. This is more from an AML audit perspective, just to check whether any kind of anti-money laundering is happening or not. Next point, which is a very major pain point, is more from a debt collections perspective. Today, what is the propensity for a particular set of customers, demographic, or a particular borrower to default? That is accurately predicted on AI as we speak. And this is a very common banker's perception. You can ask any rather senior level bankers, they would have pretty much the same response. More importantly, sir, as we talk about AI and Gen AIs and these various keywords, the fundamental thing is there are broadly 6 to 8 OBDs, that basic document identifiers, that need to be used from training the larger AI programs or the AI stacks. The better the quality, the better the AI output accuracy is concerned. That's a common, I'm sure a lot of people agree on that. Also, what we look at is, this is my personal opinion, that when we look at data structuring, a lot of the data in our country, what I call as Bharat, is unstructured, it is unformulated, it is uninlined for. So there is a very pressing need with respect to AI to get data structures in place and hopefully have a common data language or a common data structure policy. Additionally, on top of that, we look at data quality from a quality perspective, like an accuracy perspective, which is something the banks as a larger family, that I'm sure all of us strive for that. And the question of missing data. Like, for example, a very hypothetical use case. If it's a personal loan or a business loan, a particular borrower A is applying for, if there are 20 requirements from a data or a KYC perspective, if those 3-4 are missing for whatever reason it is, that creates a lot of, just 2 minutes if you don't mind, creates a lot of issues for larger banks and fiduciaries to issue the particular credit line from a accuracy standpoint. So that's broadly what we are. I wish we had more time. I've created some statistics around that, but it's great talking to everyone on this.
Yeah, we are out of time, but last one line from each panelist on future of AI in capital markets. One line.
I'll just say in a 2-line. Typically, when we are, as I said, a digital-led organization on a day one, innovation, we follow the thumb rule of innovation, never compromise the trust, transparency, and regulatory compliance. As the data moving to the intelligent decisions and the post-facto analytical to the real-time predictive analytics of using Gen AI, the Gen AI is the big boom. And for the capital market, there are many use cases across the life cycle of capital market, starting from motivating the investor to invest more and get more money generated for his families and wealth creations, as well as from the exchange perspective of surveillance to the data protections, and as well as the enforcement and many other things which the Gen AI is about to deliver in the capital market.
Thank you, Sampath.
I think embracing it, and with the India demographics, the education system, and the volume of data and the investment happening, a view would be becoming the torch bearers, and everyone looking up to India.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Abhishek.
AI can really help to democratize, financial services and enable financial inclusion in India. So our aim will be to use AI to help our users to invest the right amount of money in the right fund at the right time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Basu.
So for me, the tagline for the AI that we are building as a country should be hashtag like Dharmic AI. The reason is when we build AI, it's more from not just from a business priorities perspective, but also from an ethical perspective. It has to be completely unbiased, ethically correct, and absolutely serving the correct cause. So that's probably what we're looking at.
Yeah, I thank all the panelists. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all our panelists. May we request Mr. Rajan Pillai as well to join in from Finarkin. He's from the founder's office himself, joining in. And Thank you so much, and may we request Dr. Narendra along with Rajan to please give a token of appreciation to all our speakers, of course, starting with our moderator right here. So Mr. Kannan is on the left. We have our speakers out here on the right. And meanwhile, for all the ones in the audience, we'd just like to remind you that we're going to be now breaking in for a short networking and lunch break. Of course, as per schedule, we're going to be starting at 2:30 IST. I hope that gives us enough time, almost 40 minutes. With that, we just request all our panelists to please step forward. Also, all of you who are in the room, to please give them an encouraging round of applause to all our incredible speakers for joining us at the AI Conclave 2025. This is the day 2. On the other side at 2:30, we're going to be starting with AI-driven talent management, generative AI use cases in HR. May we request all of you to please join us at that time, and also just reminding all of you to collect the lunch coupons from the registration desk. Thank you.